And now I'm going live connecting to Facebook. Sorry. Carole, right?
Yes, Carole.
Okay. Pronunciation, okay.
Yep.
Sorry. Okay, fan page. All right. I'm gonna go connect now, so it's gonna be live in 3, 2, 1. Let me get the link. Okay. So you can check your I just send it to you.
Okay, I've got it.
Got it? Okay. So
Okay.
Okay. So okay, so today, first thing first, I know it's not Lhakar Nite, so I'm going to talk in Tibetan. Okay. So Munchina Dangong on Zol Lhakar Nite share it is a Guagi, any Dango Facebook the link that is Kaleko Chani Chito Masol and Shua in Konda. And it taring them on the Carole Mora Zomba Pore Morangi Tibet Tina Arrested Historian learning there. So history learning. And it did Tibet the Morantina Jure and it developed on the Chushi Gangdrug Kola down and history Kola Morangi Abuchina Re. I wanted to show you any telling of the big the guests Hichimuji Pier Morangi Tsela Carole Re. So any sorry Carole, if I'm not wrong, you in Colorado, right?
Yes, Colorado.
Colorado Lungbali wanted to show you. So Tesla and hi Carole.
Tachilani, Tuchite.
Finally.
Finally, yes, not Lhakar, but day after.
Yeah, day after. As I was apologizing you yesterday too, and I was trying to connect with you for almost I would say like at least 5 to 6 months.
Oh my, okay, well good, I'm glad we're here then.
Yeah, because not having my proper Facebook and like connecting to my mom, and I was asking my friends, and I was asking CTC executive director Sharapla, hey, is it can connect with her that I really wanted to go live with her and talk about the book. Anyway, sorry, before we start, do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Carole McGranahan. I'm professor of anthropology and history at the University of Colorado. And since the 1990s, I have been learning stories of Tibet and trying to tell them to the world, including the story of Chushi Gangdrug, which is the book Arrested Histories that Sonam just held up.
Okay, thank you. So it's actually, okay, as I said earlier, it's not an interview, so it's more about like casual talk and so yeah. And so there's few questions that a couple of my friends wants to know. I personally myself as well. So how did you get involved with Tibet and Tibet issue? Like,
sure. When I was 20 years old and was a university student, I wanted to leave the United States and go to another part of the world. And I learned of a program in Nepal. So I went to study in Nepal. And when I was in Nepal, we went up right close to the border of Mustang. So I was in Marpa, which is near Jomsom. And just south of Marpa is a Tibetan refugee camp. That's where Serok camp is. And at the time, I didn't know anything at all about Tibet, and men and women from the camp would come to talk to us, to these American students who were there. And that's where I learned the story of Tibet. I wanted to know, why don't I know this, right? Why haven't I heard this story before? What happened? Like, how do you lose your country? How is that even possible? And I wanted to join in, not just learning the story of Tibet, but telling it. And so that was how it all started when I was 20 years old. A long time ago now.
Yeah. So when you say 20, is it like late 90s or early 20s or?
Oh, 1989.
Oh, 1989. So yeah, way back. Yeah, 1989. And I'm pretty sure you had a good experience over there, especially in Mustang.
I was amazing. It changed my life, right? It changed my life such that I devoted my career and my personal life really to learning about Tibet and trying to, share that knowledge with other people. But what that has meant has been, not learning from books, but learning from people, right? So most of my time originally was living in Kathmandu, so staying with a Kampa family, a family I still stay with, who are still my, we consider ourselves family. They're in Toronto now. So I come to Toronto a lot also. And then going around and interviewing all of the Chushi Gangdrug veterans, right? So talking to people, learning people's personal stories. So that's the kind of history I'm interested in. It connects anthropology and history together, right? What does it mean to live history? What does it feel like? So that's what I've done. And I feel very lucky to have been able to do this, to have been welcomed into the community.
Yeah, when you said about Toronto, I remember you were here like probably a couple of months ago in Toronto at one of the Chushi Gangdrug's event.
Yes.
And I was out of town that time, and I was like, I missed this event. I really wanted to meet her. I really wanted to, talk about this book. So anyway, finally we're here virtually.
Yes. Well, I'll be coming back. I'll be in Toronto in October.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So you're talking about this year coming
Yeah, this year coming up in October.
Oh, that's nice. So maybe we can talk about this once the Zoom meeting is done.
Definitely. Yeah.
So and about this book, what we can learn from this book, like Tibetan and non-Tibetan?
I think both groups, doesn't matter who you are, you can learn a history that has really been, as the title says, arrested, right? So even within the Tibetan community, a lot of people don't know the story of Chushi Gangdrug, right? They don't know that these just ordinary men and women too, like rose up to defend their families, defend their lamas, defend their leader, all the way up to the Dalai Lama, to defend Buddhism and defend Tibet, that this was something that ordinary people did because it mattered to them, right? That this was service to His Holiness, right? The Dalai Lama. And yet the story of that service and the suffering that it involved for many people, right? Separation from their family, things they had to do on the battlefield that they didn't want to, right? That went against their beliefs, but that they had to do in the defense of Buddhism and the defense of their teachers and leaders, just hasn't been recognized by the community in ways that are very sad, right? And have continued really to mean that the pains of belonging to a community persist, right? Those continue. Like sometimes we think that it's more painful not to belong, but often the effort to belong it is something that's painful because you have to make a compromise. So for the veterans, they had to keep quiet about their history. They had to keep quiet about everything they did, for His Holiness and for Tibet. And that was not an easy thing, even for the most humble, devout, sincere of them. It was difficult.
Yeah. Honestly, I really appreciate that, you spend your whole life pretty much about our, to show our history to the world. I'm really thankful for that. And anyway, so as you said earlier, and about the question you were talking about, there's a lot of people who really struggle and who really fought against and there's a misconception, Tibetan freedom struggle has not always been, non-violent, this and that, and most of the people, many, they don't know about, Tibetan freedom fighter Chushi Gangdrug, right?
Mhm.
They battled against the PLA force for a decade, right? And that misinterpretation, and what we can do to like change it, how, like we do it to change it, like, yeah.
I think the first thing to do is, programs like this, where we talk about the history, and getting the Tibetan community together to say, hey, do you know what happened in 1958, June 16th, the founding of Chushi Gangdrug? Do you know what happened in Kham earlier, 1956, when the Chinese PLA dropped bombs on monasteries, Litang, Chating, Imba, so many different places. It's learning the history, right? Knowing your past, knowing what happened, not denying it. But the fact of nonviolence, that Tibet has a nonviolent politics, right? And that has been the single policy of the Dalai Lama ever since 1987, right? 1989, we have the 5-point peace plan. He speaks to the US Congress. He goes to Europe. He speaks to the European Union in Strasbourg, right? And really firmly, strongly articulates this. That wasn't the case back in the 1950s, right? The Tibetan government could not fight back, but the citizens of Tibet fought back. And there's a bit of a, I don't know if we want to call it a loophole, right, in Buddhism, that says nonviolence, right, is a principle that's part of a Buddhist philosophy of the way we live our lives. But when Buddhism is under attack, right, when your leaders, your bodhisattvas, your deities, when the Dharma is under attack, you may defend it. And that is what Chushi Gangdrug did.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you're absolutely right. And even like, if you talk about the Tibet Uprising Day, right? And
Right.
most people, they only know about March 10.
Yep.
If you look at it, okay, sorry, I should not say only March 10. March 10 and March 12th, the Tibetan Uprising Day. And even after that, like March 22nd, March 17, there was a lot of Tibetan people were like fighting, and even in front of Chakang Temple. So if you look at it, it was the whole month of March. Every day there was like five, 6, 7 Tibetan people were fighting against of 100, 200, PLA. So yeah. And you're absolutely right. Yeah, we should, especially I feel like our younger generation should be more focused on our history, so that they can learn and educate other people, like non-Tibetan people, and talk about like how Tibetan people, especially Chushi Gangdrug, really fought against the yeah.
I mean, it's the real history. It's what people's grandfathers and uncles and fathers and grandmothers, right, truly did. It really happened.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like, like these days the generation, it's more about the movie and stuff. So I feel like sometimes I feel like I wish there's a producer who can spend a good money and make a Hollywood movie, not like, you know what I mean?
Right.
And if you look at it these days, the Chinese government, the CCP are spending so much money in entertainment that they are making so many propaganda movies, like how Japanese and this and that, you know what I mean, right?
Right, I absolutely do. Now, when my book came out, someone from Hollywood contacted me and said, we need to make this into a movie. And I thought, yes, please, but didn't happen. But I think there's a real movie that could be made here that shows the dedication, the passion, the difficulty. And then, after the war, right, if Buddhism gives you the ability, right, to defend the Dharma, it also then gives you the tools to atone for it, to say you're sorry later in this life and in future lives, right? So that's part of it, and that's part of, again, of living actual lives, not just talking about life, but living your life.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll just, I mean, I really wish that person, whoever contact you, and hope after this they will contact you and make a movie about this.
I hope so. They wanted me to do the screenplay, so I don't know if there's any like folks out there who are screenwriters or who want to collaborate on it. I'm here, so get in touch with me and we can see what we can do. I mean, and there's so many great Tibetan filmmakers. This would have to be made in exile, of course, but the topic is just so perfect for a movie as a way to reach all those people. Not everyone wants to read a book. Sometimes people want to sit down and see the story on the screen, and this would be a story very worth telling.
Yeah. Absolutely right. So Carole, I'm not going to waste much of your time. So, and is there anything you wanna talk about before we about your book a little bit, or anything from the book? That
Sure. So the book. Oh, go on.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
I mean, like, what good memory you have?
Oh, the good memories are spending time with people listening to their stories. That's why I feel like I'm the luckiest person in the world sometimes. I meet people who have lived fascinating lives, who are interesting, kind people, and they trust me with their stories and ask me to tell them to others. Like, that's a real responsibility, but also a real gift. So that is my favorite part. Like, every single person and I interviewed over 100 Chushi Gangdrug soldiers for this book, sitting down with them. And lots of times I would sit down and then family would join around. So it wasn't just me and the person I was interviewing, but like their family members would come and friends would come. And then afterwards they would say to me, we've never heard these stories, right? Or Pala or Ashang or whoever it was doesn't talk about this usually, right? Doesn't tell these stories. And so it was also like the family coming together, the community coming together. And that made a big impression on me as well, that often these veterans, even their closest friends and family members, hadn't heard their stories before, right? They really kept them inside. And I think the time has come, slowly and gradually, where more and more, first it was the veterans, many of them have passed now, but now it's their family, right? Like their children and grandchildren are telling the stories. The Tibet Museum, like brand new Tibet Museum in Dharamsala, has an entire exhibit on the resistance. Like, so that really shows that we're in a new period where it's time to start learning, start sharing, and start recognizing.
Yeah. I really wish the time when you were interviewing, there was someone was taking video of you and the family. They could have
Me too. Yes, it was like we didn't have those tools back then. So the best.
Talking about 1980s, I totally understand. That was like so expensive. Everything was so.
Everything was bad, but we do have a film, right? So Tenzin Sonam and Ritu Saran made the documentary film Shadow Circus, which does interview many of the veterans. So if you haven't seen that, anyone who's listening who hasn't seen that, find that and watch it. Like, it's an amazing film. And Tenzin Sonam's father is Droni Lamosereng, right, who was one of the secretary to Jalutundu, and so who was also part of the resistance. So really an important film. And Tenzin Sonam and Ritu Saran continue to be part of telling the resistance history in really creative ways, right? Museum exhibits in addition to film. So it's not just me, right? Like there's certainly folks within the Tibetan community, some of us from out, who are all trying to learn the story and share it with the world.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and like the actual, I was talking about you when you were doing that. And
yeah.
I'll be like,
I would like that too. I wish I had video. I don't. I have some photos, but yeah, still photos don't capture the interactions of people, right? Yeah. And the family members all listening and making, the noises you make when someone tells a story, like how you are a good listener. You go, right? And just everyone's excitement and suspense.
Yeah, expression and everything, because the story when they were sharing with you, and as you said earlier, like they trusted you so much, and they were like, at the bottom line, they were asking you to share our stories to the world, right? So when they would, so when they were doing that, if we had a videotape of that videotape will be priceless right now. That's what I feel. And it could be like, I'm pretty sure it's going to be like viral within the Tibetan community.
Who knows? It would be nice though. Yes, I wish we had those things back then, but not quite. Yeah.
Anyway, so Carole summed up, and like as I said, is there anything you want to talk about before we hang up, or anything that I missed?
I just want to say, anyone from the young generation who's listening, start asking people, be your own scholar, talk to the old people in your life, like the, momos and popolas who are around, ask them about their stories, sit down and spend an hour having tea and talking to them. So it's like, just once you ask someone, a whole world opens up.
You are absolutely right. Yeah, and I even I do my grandma is like 90.
Oh, okay. Yeah, exactly. Right.
I always do my best to spend like at least half an hour or max 1 hour a day with her and talk to, like, it's priceless. Okay.
Exactly. Her experiences are so special. Yep. Okay.
And I bought this book and I got it on February 13th. The Tibetan, yeah, croak.
Right.
So, but still, I didn't get a chance to read. So I have to read it. And hopefully, when I'm going to see you in October this year, I will ask you a bunch of questions from this book.
Okay.
And
good. That's your homework. You have to read the book before I come to Toronto.
yeah, and then what you need to do is I need your autograph.
Oh, of course. I'd be happy to do that. Yes.
All right, Carole. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking out a precious time for us, RTYC, and hope to see you soon.
Okay. Thank you. I'll see you in Toronto. Bye-bye.
Bye.